I'm sitting in the back seat of Jason's Honda Civic, and my phone won't stop buzzing against my hip. Mark's name keeps lighting up the screen. I can see it through the fabric of my dress. The nice one I wore for him. The navy blue sheath he said made me look like Jackie Kennedy. "Where are you? I need to see your face before I go in." Jason's hands are in my hair. His mouth tastes like cigarettes and Red Bull. The windows are fogged. I can hear the echo of car doors slamming somewhere else in the garage, people walking to their important meetings, their real lives. "You should probably get that," Jason says, but he's smiling. He thinks this is funny. I check the time. 9:57 a.m. Mark is 5 floors directly above us, in the molecular biology building, about to defend 7 years of his life. 7 years of 16-hour days in a freezing lab, pipetting samples at 3 in the morning, surviving on vending machine coffee and $28,000 a year. 7 years that aged him a decade, turned his hair gray at the temples, gave him a permanent squint from staring at microscopes. 7 years that I supported, that I paid for, that I waited through, and I'm here. "He's starting in 3 minutes, I whisper. Jason pulls back, grinning. "Let him wait. Smart guys always wait." I should move. I should run. I should be upstairs in the front row of that conference room where I promised I'd be, where he'll look for me the second before he starts talking, where he needs to see my face to know he can do this. Instead, I'm unbuttoning my shirt in a parking garage. I didn't know, not then, that the entire dissertation committee would notice when I finally walked in 40 minutes late. I didn't know my shirt would be buttoned wrong, that my hair would be a mess, that I would smell like Jason's cheap cologne in a room full of people who'd known Mark for 7 years. I didn't know that Dr. Patricia Morrison, the committee chair, would stare at my crooked buttons with an expression I couldn't read, or that Mark would be too focused, too terrified, too desperate to notice anything except whether he was about to pass or fail. I didn't know that Mark's lab partner David would see Jason and me in the car on his way into the building, that he would see the steamed windows, see Jason's custodian uniform in a pile on the front seat, see my car parked in the faculty section where it had no reason to be. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how I became the woman who missed her husband's doctoral defense to fuck the janitor in a parking garage. I met Mark 8 years ago at a hospital fundraiser in Boston. I was there representing my pharmaceutical company, Merck back then, wearing my best sales smile and a dress that cost a week's commission. Mark was there because his advisor had dragged the entire lab, insisting they network. And remember, there's a world outside pipettes. He looked lost, brilliant and terrified, like a puppy someone had dropped at a freeway rest stop. He wore a suit that didn't fit right and kept adjusting his tie like it was choking him. When I asked what he did, he launched into an explanation of CRISPR gene editing that I absolutely did not understand, but found charming anyway. "I'm trying to figure out how to make the Cas9 enzyme more specific," he said, eyes lighting up. "Right now, it's like using a chainsaw for surgery. I want to make it a scalpel." "That's incredible," I said, and I meant it. I'd spent the day talking to cardiologists about statin medications. Mark was talking about rewriting DNA, about curing genetic diseases, about science fiction becoming real. "It's probably boring," he said, deflating. "Everyone says it's boring." "It's not boring," I told him. "You're saving lives. I'm just selling pills." He looked at me like I'd handed him the world. We dated for 3 years before he proposed. They were good years mostly. Mark was a second-year PhD student, buried in coursework, but not yet consumed by research. We went to movies. We cooked dinner together in his terrible graduate student apartment with the radiator that clanked all night. We had sex on his terrible futon and laughed about it afterward. I made $85,000 a year. He made $28,000. I paid for everything and told myself it didn't matter because Mark was going to be someone. He was brilliant. Everyone said so. His advisor, Dr. Raymond Chen, called him once in a generation. Mark was going to cure muscular dystrophy, or Huntington's disease or something else that killed children. He was going to matter. And I was going to be the woman who believed in him when no one else did. We got married 4 years ago at Boston City Hall. Nothing fancy. We couldn't afford fancy. Mark wore the same suit from the fundraiser. I wore a white dress from Nordstrom Rack. His parents flew in from Minnesota and paid for dinner at Legal Seafoods. My mother cried and said I could do better than a grad student, which I ignored because what did she know? I was 26 and married to a genius. I was invested in something that mattered. The first 2 years of marriage were fine. Hard, but fine. Mark passed his qualifying exams, started his real research, came home at 9 or 10 most nights, exhausted but still present, still asked about my day, still kissed me when he walked in the door. But then came year 3 of his PhD, year 5 overall. The year everything shifted. Mark disappeared into what he called the data collection phase. Experiments that took 16 hours start to finish. Cultures that had to be checked every 4 hours, even overnight. A project that was supposed to take 3 years, but kept hitting complications, kept requiring new approaches, kept demanding more and more and more. He started sleeping in the lab. Actually sleeping, there was a couch in the break room, and he kept a pillow there. Some nights, I'd text him at 11 p.m. and get back. Still running samples, don't wait up. Some nights, he didn't come home at all. I'd wake up alone in our apartment, the nicer apartment I'd insisted we move to, the one I paid for entirely, and eat breakfast alone, and go to work alone, and come home alone. I'd see Mark for maybe an hour on Sundays, and even then he was distracted, thinking about his data, worrying about his timeline. I'm behind, he'd say, staring at his laptop over cold pizza. Chen says if I don't finish data collection by next summer, I'll lose my funding window. Can't you just work normal hours? I asked once. He looked at me like I'd suggested he could just casually flap his arms and fly. Chloe, cells don't care about normal hours. If I don't passage them every 72 hours, they die. If I don't collect data during exponential growth phase, I have to start over. I can't just stop. Right, I said. Sorry. I told myself I understood. I told myself this was temporary. I told myself that when Mark finished, when he became Dr. Henderson, it would all be worth it. But I was lonely. God, I was lonely. I made $110,000 a year by then, promoted twice, crushing my sales targets, paying for everything from rent to groceries to Mark's conference fees. I'd come home to an empty apartment and drink wine and watch Netflix and wonder when my life had become this small. My friends, the ones who'd stayed in touch, were married to lawyers and consultants and finance guys. They went on vacations to Napa. They posted photos from ski trips and beach houses. They complained about their husbands working late, and I wanted to laugh because their version of late was 7 p.m. I didn't tell them my husband forgot our anniversary because he was running a Western blot. I didn't tell them I'd eaten dinner alone every night for 3 weeks. I didn't tell them I sometimes went entire days without speaking to another human except to say thank you to the Starbucks barista. I told myself I was being supportive. I told myself this was what you did when you loved someone brilliant. You sacrificed. You waited. I told myself I was a good wife. I met Jason on a Tuesday night 14 months ago. I'd gone to campus to drop off dinner for Mark, Thai food from the place near our apartment, the Pad CU he liked. I did this sometimes when the loneliness got too sharp. I'd bring him food and sit in his lab for 20 minutes while he ate, just to be near another person. Mark's lab was in the basement of the biology building, a windowless, fluorescent nightmare that smelled like ethanol and anxiety. I'd buzzed the security entrance and was waiting in the hallway when a janitor walked by pushing a cart. Waiting for the genius? He asked. I looked up. He was young, mid-20s maybe, with the kind of body that came from actual physical work, not a gym. Dark hair, easy smile, custodian uniform, with his name embroidered on the pocket, Jason. My husband, I said. He's running late. They're always running late, Jason said. I clean this building every night. These science nerds practically live here. He said, "Science nerds," like it was funny. Not mean, just amused. "Yeah," I said. "They do. You're here a lot," he observed. "I've seen you, always waiting." Something about the way he said it made my chest tight. Always waiting. Like he'd noticed something I'd been trying not to notice myself. "Someone's gotta feed him," I said, forcing a smile. "That's love, I guess," Jason said. "Me, I don't think I could be with someone who cared about cells more than people. But hey, that's just me." He smiled, friendly, uncomplicated, and pushed his cart down the hall. When Mark finally came out 20 minutes later, he kissed my cheek distractedly and scarfed down the pad "See you" in 7 minutes while telling me about a contaminated culture that had set him back 2 weeks. He didn't ask about my day. Didn't notice I'd gotten my hair cut. Didn't seem to notice I was there at all, really, except as a delivery system for calories. "I gotta get back," he said, tossing the takeout container in the trash. "Thanks for this. You're amazing." And then he was gone, back through the security door, back to his cells and his data and his life that didn't include me. I walked past Jason on my way out. "He say thank you?" Jason asked. "Yeah," I said. "Good, you deserve that." It was such a small thing, but it landed like something huge. After that, I started seeing Jason every time I visited campus. He worked the evening shift, 6 p.m. to 2 a.m., which meant he was always there during Mark's late nights. I'd be sitting in the hallway waiting, and Jason would walk by and ask how my day was. Actually ask, actually listen. "Sales, huh?" he said one night. "That sounds hard, lots of rejection." "Yeah," I said, surprised anyone remembered. "But it pays well." "Bet you're good at it," he said. "You've got that vibe. Like you could convince anyone of anything." It was a throwaway compliment, probably, but I felt it everywhere. Mark hadn't complimented me in months, hadn't really looked at me in months. When I bought new dresses or wore lingerie to bed, he didn't notice. He was always exhausted, always thinking about tomorrow's experiment, always somewhere else. But Jason noticed. "New dress?" he asked one night. I looked down at myself, surprised. "Yeah, you like it?" "Looks good," he said simply. "Pretty color." It was purple. Mark wouldn't have been able to tell me what color I was wearing if his life depended on it. I started timing my food deliveries for when I knew Jason would be working. Started staying a little longer in the hallway, chatting about nothing. His job was easy, he said, mindless. He listened to podcasts while he cleaned. Didn't take the work home with him. Clocked out at 2 a.m. and actually stopped thinking about it. "Must be nice," I said. "Mark can't turn his brain off. Ever." "That's because he's thinking about science," Jason said. "I think about normal shit, like whether the Celtics are gonna make the playoffs. Or what I'm having for dinner." "That sounds peaceful." "It is," he said. "You should try it sometime." He smiled when he said it, not flirting exactly. Just easy. Like talking to me was easy. Like I wasn't asking too much just by existing. Mark made me feel like I was asking too much by existing. It escalated slowly. So slowly, I could tell myself it wasn't escalating at all. Jason started bringing me coffee when he saw me waiting. "You look tired," he'd say. "Figured you could use this." I started texting Mark that I was running errands and then driving to campus just to sit in the hallway. Just to talk to Jason. Just to feel like someone saw me. "Your husband knows how lucky he is?" Jason asked once. "I don't know," I said honestly. "I don't think he thinks about it." "That's fucked up," Jason said. "You're here all the time, bringing him food, waiting around, and he's just in there with his microscopes." "He's trying to cure diseases," I said, defensive. "It's important work." "Yeah, but you're important too," Jason said. "Right?" I didn't answer, because I didn't know if Mark thought I was important. I felt like a support system, a bank account, a person-shaped appliance that kept his life running while he did the real work. "You ever have fun?" Jason asked. "Or is it all work and waiting?" "I have fun," I lied. "Bullshit," he said, grinning. "When's the last time you did something crazy?" "Crazy?" "Yeah, impulsive. Something just because you wanted to." I thought about it. I couldn't remember. "That's sad," Jason said. You should fix that. The first time I crossed the line, I told myself it was an accident. It was a Friday night, 8 months ago. Mark had texted that he'd be in the lab until at least 2 a.m., some time-sensitive assay that couldn't wait. I'd been drinking wine alone in our apartment and decided to go to campus, just to get out, just to talk to someone. Jason was cleaning the third-floor bathrooms when I found him. "You're here late," he said. "So are you." "Yeah, but I'm paid to be here. What's your excuse?" "Didn't want to be alone." Something shifted in his expression. "Your husband's here and you're alone?" "He's busy. He's always busy." Jason leaned against his cleaning cart. "You know what I think?" "What?" "I think you're too good for him." I laughed. "You don't know him. I know he's got a woman like you sitting in hallways waiting for scraps of his time. That tells me everything." "Jason, I'm serious. You're smart, you're funny, you're beautiful, and you're here at 10 p.m. on a Friday night hoping your husband will notice you exist. That's fucked up, Chloe." No one had called me beautiful in so long. Mark used to. Back when we were dating, back before the PhD consumed him. Now he called me amazing and supportive and the best. Like I was a really good assistant. "I should go," I said. "Or you could stay," Jason said. "Talk to me. I'm good at listening." So I stayed. We sat on the floor outside the bathrooms, disgusting, I know, and talked for 2 hours. He told me about growing up in Southie, about his job, about his life. I told him about sales, about my mother, about feeling invisible. At midnight, he kissed me. I kissed him back. We didn't do more than that, not then. But the line was crossed. I knew it was crossed, and I didn't stop it. Over the next 6 months, Jason and I fell into a pattern. I'd come to campus 2 or 3 times a week, officially to bring Mark dinner, actually to see Jason. We'd find empty classrooms or storage closets. We'd talk and laugh and do things I knew were wrong. I told myself it wasn't that bad because it wasn't everything. I told myself it was just emotional, just conversation, just someone making me feel human again. But it was more than that. I knew it was more than that. Mark had no idea. He was drowning in his research, in his writing, in the final brutal year of his PhD. He'd started writing his dissertation, 300 pages of dense scientific text that had to be perfect. He wrote at the lab, at home, at coffee shops at 6 a.m. He was possessed by it, consumed by it. "Almost done," he'd say, looking up from his laptop with red eyes. "Just a few more months, and this is over." "That's great," I'd say. And then I'd go to campus and find Jason. Jason made me laugh. Jason thought I was interesting. Jason asked about my day and actually remembered what I said. Jason didn't have a world-changing project that mattered more than I did. "You should leave him," Jason said once, 6 months ago. We were in the supply closet where they kept extra chairs for conferences. His hands were in my hair. My shirt was unbuttoned. "I can't," I said. "Why not? He doesn't appreciate you. He's about to finish his PhD. I've supported him for 7 years. I can't leave now." "So you're staying out of, what, investment?" "That's not—" "It is," Jason said. "You've put in 7 years, so you feel like you have to see it through. That's not love, Chloe. That's a sunk cost fallacy." He was right. I hated that he was right. But I stayed with Mark, and I kept seeing Jason, and I told myself I'd figure it out later, after the PhD, after life went back to normal. I told myself a lot of things. 3 months ago, Mark's defense date was set. June 8th, 10 a.m. The culminating moment of his entire adult life. He was terrified. I'd never seen him so scared. He practiced his presentation dozens of times, timing himself, memorizing every slide, preparing for every possible question. His committee was tough. Dr. Patricia Morrison was famous for destroying candidates who weren't prepared. She made David cry, Mark told me, literally cry, during his defense. "You're more prepared than David," I said. "I don't know. There's so much that could go wrong. What if they hate my data? What if I can't answer their questions? What if—" "Mark," I took his hands. They were shaking. "You're the smartest person I know. You're going to be fine. He looked at me like I'd thrown him a life preserver. I need you there, in the front row. I need to see your face and know it's going to be okay. I'll be there, I promised. Front row, I promise. He kissed me. I love you. I couldn't have done any of this without you. I told him I loved him too. And I meant it. I did love him. I loved the Mark I'd met 8 years ago, the brilliant, terrified puppy who talked about saving lives. I loved what he'd built, what he'd accomplished. I just didn't love who we'd become. The week before, Mark's defense was chaos. He barely slept, ran through his talk 20 times, made me quiz him on potential questions. Every moment was PhD, defense, committee, data. I was so tired of hearing about CRISPR. I saw Jason twice that week. Once in his car in the parking garage, just talking, just sitting. Once in the custodian break room on the 6th floor where no one ever went. Big week for the genius, huh? Jason said. Yeah, he's freaking out. You going to the thing? The defense? Of course, I promised. Jason studied me. You don't sound excited. I am excited. It's a lot of pressure. On him or on you? Both. You know what I think? Jason said. I think after this is over, you should leave him. You've done your time. You supported him through the whole thing. Now he's got his fancy degree, and you can move on. It's not that simple. Why not? Because I'd spent 7 years of my life on this. Because everyone knew me as Mark's wife, the woman who'd stuck with him through grad school poverty. Because if I left now, it would all have been for nothing. Because I didn't know who I was if I wasn't Mark's wife. I should go, I said. Jason kissed me. Whatever you decide, you know where to find me. The morning of June 8th, I woke up at 6. Mark was already awake, sitting at our kitchen table with his laptop, running through his slides one more time. Morning, I said. Morning. He didn't look up. You ready? No, yes, I don't know. He rubbed his eyes. I think I'm going to throw up. You're going to be amazing, I said. I made him eggs. He didn't eat them. At 8:30, he put on his suit, the new one I'd bought him for this. Navy blue, perfectly tailored. He looked good. Professional. Like someone who deserved the title doctor. How do I look? He asked. Perfect, I said honestly. He kissed me. Thank you. For everything. For these 7 years. For believing in me. When no one else did. I couldn't have done this without you. I felt something crack in my chest. I know. I'll see you there, right? Front row? Front row, I confirmed. I just need to make a quick call for work first. I'll meet you there by 9:45. Okay. He kissed me again. I love you. Love you too. He left at 8:45. I watched him walk to his car, watched him sit in the driver's seat for a full minute trying to calm his breathing, watched him drive away. And then I texted Jason. You working today? Yeah, overnight shift. Why? Meet me at the parking garage, level 4? When? Now. I drove to campus at 9:15, parked on level 4 of Structure B, the faculty lot where no one would be on a Wednesday morning. Jason was already there, leaning against his Honda. You're supposed to be at that defense thing, he said. I know. So why are you here? I didn't have a good answer. Because I was angry at Mark for 7 years of loneliness. Because I wanted to feel something other than like a support system. Because Jason made me feel real and Mark made me feel invisible. Because I could? I don't know, I said. When does it start? 10. Jason checked his phone. So, you've got 45 minutes. Yeah. He opened the back door of his car. Get in. I should have left. I should have driven straight to the molecular biology building and taken my seat in the front row and been the wife Mark needed me to be. I should have remembered that this was the defining moment of his life, the culmination of 7 years of work, the thing we'd both sacrificed everything for. I got in the car. At 9:55, my phone buzzed. Mark's name on the screen. Where are you? I need to see your face before I go in. Jason's hands were in my hair. His mouth was on my neck. The windows were fogged. I could hear cars on other levels. People arriving for their days, their normal lives. He's starting in 5 minutes, I said. Let him wait, Jason laughed. Smart guys always wait. I looked at my phone, looked at Jason, Looked at the time. I knew what I was doing. I knew exactly what I was doing. I kissed Jason again. At 10:02, Mark walked into conference room 4B alone. Dr. Patricia Morrison asked, "Is your wife joining us, Mr. Henderson?" Mark swallowed hard. I found out later that his hands were shaking, that his voice cracked when he answered. She got stuck in traffic. She'll be here. He started his presentation, alone, looking for me in an empty front row, while I was 4 floors below him in a parking garage, making the worst decision of my life. I finally pulled myself together at 10:25. "I have to go," I said. Jason was half asleep in the front seat. "Yeah, okay." I checked myself in the mirror. My hair was a disaster. My makeup was smudged. My shirt, the nice navy one, the Jackie Kennedy one, was buttoned wrong. I tried to fix it, gave up. I drove from Structure B to Structure A, closer to the biology building, and parked in my usual spot. Walked across campus in the June sun. My phone showed 17 missed calls from Mark's mother, who was sitting in the defense. 3 texts from his advisor. I walked into the molecular biology building at 10:38, took the elevator to the 4th floor, found conference room 4B. Through the door window, I could see Mark at the podium. He was mid-sentence, talking about Cas9 enzyme specificity, explaining something with his hands the way he did when he was nervous. The committee sat in a semicircle. His mother sat in the front row where I should have been, tissues in her lap, glaring at the door. I opened it as quietly as I could. Everyone turned. Mark stopped talking mid-word. Just stopped. Looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. Relief, confusion, hurt, all at once. "Sorry," I whispered. "I'm so sorry." I slipped into the back row. Not the front, couldn't face his mother. Just the back. Dr. Morrison stared at me for a long moment, at my hair, at my shirt with its misaligned buttons, at my face, which I knew was flushed and guilty. "Mr. Henderson, please continue," she said coldly. Mark continued, but he was shaken. I could see it. He stumbled over words he'd practiced 100 times, lost his place in his slides, had to ask someone to repeat a question, but he recovered. Because Mark was brilliant, because he'd worked too hard and too long to let anything destroy this moment. He defended his dissertation for 90 minutes. I sat in the back row, smelling like Jason's cologne, and watched him do it alone. At noon, Dr. Morrison said, "Please step outside, Mr. Henderson. We'll deliberate." Mark walked out. His mother followed him. I followed them both into the hallway. "Where were you?" Mark whispered. He wasn't angry. He was hurt, confused. "I'm so sorry. I had a work call that ran long and then traffic." "I looked for you," he said. "Every time I looked up from my notes, I looked for you. I needed to see your face." Something in his voice broke me. "I know," I said. "I'm so sorry." His mother stared at me with pure venom but said nothing. At 12:15, the door opened. Dr. Morrison smiled. "Congratulations, Dr. Henderson." Mark's face transformed. Relief, joy, shock. He started crying. Actually crying. His mother hugged him. His advisor hugged him. The whole committee shook his hand and told him his work was exceptional, groundbreaking, exactly what they'd hoped for. And then he turned to me. "I did it," he said. "Oh my God, Chloe, I did it." He pulled me into a hug. He was shaking, sobbing into my shoulder, 7 years of stress and fear pouring out of him all at once. I hugged him back and felt nothing but crushing guilt, because I could feel the committee watching. I could see Dr. Morrison's expression, disappointment, disgust. I could see other faculty members who'd arrived for the post-defense celebration, staring at my wrinkled clothes, my messy hair, my wrong buttons. They knew. Maybe not exactly what, but they knew something was wrong. And Mark was too relieved, too overwhelmed, too consumed by his success to notice any of it. The celebration was at a bar near campus. Mark's lab, his committee, his family, everyone who'd supported him through 7 years. I stood in the corner nursing a gin and tonic, trying to smile, trying to look like the proud wife. People kept asking where I'd been. "Oh, work emergency," I said. "You know how it is." Mark's mother didn't speak to me, just stared. She knew I was lying. She didn't know why, but she knew. At 4 p.m., Mark was drunk and happy, surrounded by his friends, celebrating. I slipped outside for air. David was there, Mark's lab partner, smoking a cigarette even though he always claimed he'd quit. "Hey," he said. "Hey." We stood in silence for a minute. "I saw you," David said finally. My stomach dropped. "What?" "This morning. Your car. In Structure B, Level 4, around 10. I couldn't breathe. "With the janitor," he continued. "Jason, right? The guy who cleans our lab." "David, I was trying to find parking and I saw your Lexus. Windows all steamed up. I saw his custodian uniform on the front seat." He took a long drag. I wasn't going to say anything before the defense. Didn't want to mess with Mark's head. But now, "Please don't tell him," I said. My voice was shaking. "Why shouldn't I? He's my friend. He deserves to know. He just defended his PhD. This is the best day of his life. Please don't ruin it." David stared at me. "You already ruined it, Chloe. You just don't realize it yet." He stubbed out his cigarette and walked back inside. I stood there on the sidewalk in the June heat and knew with absolute certainty that my life was about to implode. David waited a week of Mark being high on success, making plans for his postdoc applications, talking about our future. A week of me pretending everything was fine while knowing it wasn't. The following Wednesday, Mark came home from the lab early, 6 p.m., which for him was practically middle of the day. "We need to talk," he said. I was sitting on the couch with a glass of wine. I set it down carefully. "Okay." He sat across from me, not next to me, across. "David told me something," Mark said. His voice was calm, too calm. "About my defense day." My heart stopped. "He said he saw your car in the parking garage with Jason." Mark looked at me. "The janitor who cleans my lab." I opened my mouth, closed it. "He said your windows were steamed up, that he saw Jason's uniform on the front seat." Mark's voice cracked. "He said this was around 10 a.m. when you were supposed to be in the front row, when I was defending 7 years of my life." "Mark, is it true?" I could have lied. Could have said David was confused, that he saw someone else, that it was a work call that ran long. But I was so tired of lying. "Yes," I whispered. The word hung in the air like a grenade. Mark didn't yell, didn't throw anything, just sat there, staring at me like he was trying to solve an equation that didn't make sense. "How long?" he asked. 8 months. 8 months. He said it like he was testing the words. "You've been sleeping with the janitor who cleans my lab for 8 months." It wasn't like that. It was... What? What was it like, Chloe? You were never here. You were always at the lab, always focused on your research, always too tired or too stressed to even see me. I was earning my PhD. For 7 years, I was crying now. 7 years of coming second to your cells and your data and your experiments. 7 years of being alone. 7 years of feeling invisible. So you fucked the janitor. I needed someone to see me. "I saw you," Mark shouted. He never shouted. "I saw you every time I came home exhausted and you were there. Every time I was stressed and you talked me through it. Every time I wanted to quit and you told me to keep going. I saw you, Chloe. I saw you and I was so grateful and I thought..." His voice broke. "I thought you understood. I thought you knew this was temporary. That when I finished, we'd have our life back." It didn't feel temporary. It felt like forever. So on the most important day of my life, the day I defended my dissertation, the thing we'd both sacrificed everything for, you were in a parking garage with Jason. The way he said Jason's name, like it was something dirty. "I'm sorry," I said. "Were you going to tell me? Ever?" "I don't know." Did he know? Jason? Did he know what day it was? Did he know you were missing my defense to be with him? I didn't answer. I didn't have to. Mark stood up. "I need you to leave. Mark, I need you to pack a bag and leave. Right now. I can't..." He pressed his palms against his eyes. "I can't look at you right now. Where am I supposed to go?" I don't know, Chloe. Go to Jason. Go to a hotel. I don't care. Just leave. I packed a bag, threw in clothes, toiletries, laptop. Mark sat on the couch the entire time, staring at nothing. At the door, I tried one more time. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. He didn't look at me. You missed my defense. You missed the most important moment of my life because you were... He couldn't finish. Get out. I left. I went to Jason's apartment. He lived in Southie, a studio above a pizza place. When I showed up with my suitcase, he looked confused. He found out, I said. Shit. Can I stay here? Just for a few days until I figure something out? Jason hesitated. Just for a second, but I saw it. Yeah, sure, he said. Of course. I stayed for 4 days. They were the worst 4 days of my life. Jason's apartment was tiny, dirty. Nothing like the home I'd built with Mark. Jason didn't talk about the future. Didn't reassure me we'd be okay. Just went to work, came home, played video games. On the 4th day, he said, "Listen, this is getting kind of intense." What do you mean? I mean, you being here, us, this whole thing. He wouldn't look at me. I think you should probably figure out your living situation. This was supposed to be fun, you know, casual, but now you're leaving your husband and moving in, and I didn't sign up for all this drama. I stared at him. Are you breaking up with me? We weren't really together, he said. Not like that. It was just, I don't know, something to do. I didn't think you'd actually leave him, but I did. For you. That was your choice, Jason said. I never asked you to do that. He was right. He'd never promised me anything. Never said he loved me. Never even pretended this was serious. I destroyed my marriage for a man who thought I was something to do. I left Jason's apartment and checked into a Holiday Inn near the airport. I stayed there for 3 weeks while I tried to figure out my life. Mark filed for divorce. He did it quietly, efficiently. Didn't ask for anything except to split assets fairly. Didn't tell anyone details except that we'd grown apart. Didn't drag my name through the mud even though he could have. His mother called me once. I know what you did, she said. I don't know the details and I don't want to. But I know you hurt my son on the best day of his life. I hope it was worth it. She hung up before I could respond. 2 months after the defense, I heard through mutual friends that Mark had accepted a postdoc position in Zurich. 2 years, working in one of the best CRISPR labs in the world. He was leaving in 6 weeks. I tried to call him. He'd blocked my number. I tried to email. He didn't respond. I went to his lab. Security wouldn't let me up. I'd been erased from his life so completely, it was like I'd never existed. 3 weeks after that, I saw a photo on his advisor's Facebook. Mark at the airport, heading to Zurich, smiling. Actually smiling. Looking younger than he had in years, like a weight had been lifted. The caption, Dr. Henderson off to his next adventure. Couldn't be prouder. In the photo, Mark looked free. I tried dating. Lasted 3 months with a guy from my gym before he asked me about my marriage, and I had to admit what I'd done. He never called again. Tried another guy, made it 4 dates before he Googled Mark's name because I'd mentioned my ex-husband was a scientist and found Mark's publications, his fancy new lab in Switzerland, his rising star trajectory. He asked how we split up. Grew apart, I said. He didn't believe me. I could tell. No one believed the grew apart story. People who grow apart don't divorce immediately after a successful PhD defense. People who grow apart don't have the husband move to another country within 3 months. People knew something bad had happened. They just didn't know what. 6 months after the defense, I saw on LinkedIn that Mark was dating someone. A postdoc in his lab, Dr. Sarah Chen. Beautiful, brilliant, published in Nature. They looked happy in the photo someone had posted from a lab party. Mark was laughing at something she'd said. Really laughing. The way he used to laugh with me, back when we were young and everything was ahead of us. I closed LinkedIn and didn't open it again for a month. A year after the defense, I ran into David at a conference. He was presenting his own research, about to finish his PhD, following in Mark's footsteps. How's Mark? I asked. David looked at me like I'd asked a stupid question. He's great. His work in Zurich is incredible. He's published 4 papers in the last year. Dr. Chen, his girlfriend, they're doing amazing work together. That's good, I said. Yeah. David studied me. You know, he never told anyone what really happened. Obviously people asked why you split up right after his defense. But he just said it didn't work out. Didn't trash you, didn't spread rumors, just moved on. That's good, I said again. I didn't know what else to say. He deserved better, David said, than what you did, than who you chose to be. He walked away before I could respond. 18 months after the defense, Jason got engaged. I saw it on Facebook. He'd never unfriended me. She was a nursing student, 23, blonde, smiled in every photo. They looked basic and happy and uncomplicated. The announcement said, "When you know, you know." He'd known with her. After 3 months of dating, he'd known enough to propose. He'd never known with me. I'd been something to do, a bored wife, a way to feel superior to the smart guy whose lab he cleaned. I'd destroyed my marriage for that. 2 years after the defense, my mother asked when I was going to start dating seriously again. "You're 32, she said. "You need to move on from Mark. Find someone new." "I'm trying," I lied. "Try harder. You don't want to end up alone." I almost laughed. Because I was alone. I'd been alone since the moment I'd made the choice to get into Jason's car instead of walking into that conference room. I'd been alone since I'd traded something real for something that evaporated the second it became inconvenient. I still work in pharmaceutical sales. I'm good at it. Make $125,000 now. I have a nice apartment in Cambridge, a new car, a gym membership I actually use. My life looks fine from the outside. But I wake up every morning and remember that at 9:55 a.m. on June 8th, 2 years ago, my phone buzzed with a text from my husband asking where I was, and I ignored it. I remember that Mark was 5 floors above me, terrified and desperate, needing to see my face before the most important moment of his life. And I was in a parking garage with a janitor who thought the whole thing was funny. I remember the expression on Mark's face when he saw me walk in 40 minutes late. Relief and hurt and confusion all at once. I remember Dr. Morrison staring at my misaligned buttons. I remember Mark sobbing into my shoulder after he passed, thanking me for supporting him while I smelled like another man. I remember David saying, "You already ruined it, Chloe. You just don't realize it yet." Last month, I saw that Mark published a paper in Science. Breakthrough research on using CRISPR to treat Duchenne muscular dystrophy. The kind of paper that gets you tenure-track positions at top universities. The kind of paper that saves lives. The acknowledgments section thanked his lab, his advisor, his collaborators. It thanked Dr. Sarah Chen for her invaluable support and partnership. My name was nowhere. 7 years of support, of paying bills, of bringing him food at midnight, of telling him he could do this. Erased. Not because Mark was petty, but because I'd erased myself. I'd chosen to be absent during the moment that mattered most. And everything that came after, the divorce, the distance, the new life he built, flowed from that choice. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd made a different choice that morning. If I'd ignored Jason's text. If I'd driven straight to the biology building. If I'd sat in the front row where I belonged, Mark would have passed anyway. He was brilliant, his research was solid, but he would have passed with me there. With my face in the crowd. With the knowledge that after 7 years, I'd shown up for the moment that mattered most. We might still have divorced eventually. The loneliness was real. The distance was real. Maybe we'd have grown apart anyway, but I wouldn't be this person. The woman who betrayed her husband on the most important day of his life. The woman who chose a casual hookup over 7 years of partnership. The woman whose name doesn't even appear in the acknowledgments of a paper she helped make possible. I wouldn't be the person David described, who you chose to be. I'm 32 years old. I live alone in a nice apartment. I make good money. I'm in the best shape of my life. And every time someone asks about my ex-husband, I say we grew apart, because I can't tell them the truth. I can't tell them that while my husband was defending 7 years of brutal research work, I was in a parking garage 4 floors below him, making the choice that would define the rest of my life. I can't tell them that the janitor I chose moved on immediately and is now married to someone else. I can't tell them that Mark is in Switzerland saving lives with a partner who actually showed up. I can't tell them that I had something real and destroyed it for something that was never real at all. I can't tell them I'm exactly the person his mother said I was. Someone who hurt her son on the best day of his life. People talk about karma like it's some cosmic force that punishes bad people. But karma isn't supernatural. Karma is just consequences. The consequence is that I wake up every day and know what I did, know who I am, know what I traded away, and for what. The consequence is that Mark is happy without me, that he built a better life the moment I was gone, that he looks younger and freer and more alive in every photo I see. The consequence is that Jason is engaged to someone he actually loved, that I meant nothing to him, and that I knew that, and that I destroyed my marriage anyway. The consequence is that I can't trust myself anymore, because if I could make that choice, if I could be in that parking garage at 9:55 a.m. while my husband begged to see my face, then who am I? What else am I capable of? Last week, I drove past the biology building. I don't know why. Maybe to torture myself, maybe to remember. I parked on level 4 of structure B. Same spot, more or less, where Jason's Honda had been parked 2 years ago. From there, I could see the window of conference room 4B, 4th floor, where Mark had defended his dissertation alone while I made the worst choice of my life 4 floors below him. The distance between the parking garage and that conference room was maybe 500 feet. A 2-minute walk, an elevator ride, nothing. I'd been so close, and I'd chosen not to close that distance. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, staring at that window, and I thought about the text Mark had sent. "Where are you? I need to see your face before I go in." He'd needed me. Not wanted, needed. And I'd ignored him. For Jason. For a man who dumped me 4 days later. For something to do. I drove home and poured a glass of wine and opened LinkedIn even though I'd promised myself I wouldn't. Mark had updated his profile. New position, Assistant Professor ETH Zurich, tenure track, teaching advanced CRISPR techniques, leading his own lab. The kind of position he'd dreamed about for a decade. The kind of position that meant he'd made it. That all those years of suffering had been worth it. And he'd gotten there without me. Better yet, he'd gotten there because he'd left me. I don't know what the moral of this story is supposed to be. I don't know if there's some lesson I learned or some growth I experienced. I know I destroyed something good. I know I did it consciously, deliberately, with full awareness that it was wrong. I know I chose the wrong person at the worst possible moment. I know Mark deserved better. I know I can't fix it, can't take it back, can't apologize enough to matter. I know that for the rest of my life, when people ask about my ex-husband, I'll say, we grew apart. Because the truth is too ugly. The truth is that I missed his doctoral defense to be with the janitor in a parking garage. The truth is that his committee saw me walk in late with my shirt buttoned wrong and knew something was terribly wrong. The truth is that he was so grateful, so overwhelmed, so consumed by his achievement that he didn't notice any of it until a week later when his best friend told him what he'd seen. The truth is that I traded 7 years of partnership for 8 months of feeling wanted by someone who didn't want me at all. There's a specific kind of regret that comes from knowing you can pinpoint the exact moment your life diverged, the exact choice that ruined everything. For me, it's 9:55 a.m. on June 8th, my phone buzzing, Mark's text asking where I was, my hand hovering over the phone while Jason kissed my neck, the choice to put the phone back down, to stay in that car, to close my eyes and ignore the fact that 5 floors above me, my husband needed me more than he'd ever needed anyone. That moment, that specific moment, that's where I became this person, and I have to live with that. I destroyed a good man on the most important day of his life because I was bored and selfish and wanted someone to make me feel special. That's who I am. I can't fix it, I can't undo it. I can't apologize it away. I can only live with it every single day for the rest of my life. That's my karma. Not some cosmic punishment, just the simple, crushing knowledge of who I chose to be and what I destroyed by choosing it. Mark is in Switzerland, saving lives, happy. Jason is married, happy. And I'm here, alone, having learned nothing except that some choices can't be unmade and some people can't be forgiven. Not by Mark, not by his mother, not by David, not by myself. I'm the woman who missed her husband's PhD defense to fuck the janitor in the parking garage. That's my story. That's who I am. And I have to live with that knowledge forever.